Hi, today's video from the terminated nurse in Nelson. There we are. Yesterday I posted a video on the upcoming NDP vote next week that is going to occur in our BC legislature. Bill 36 and the repercussions that are going to be experienced through the healthcare system as a result of that. You can take a look. I also have on a YouTube channel under my name a 30-minute explanation of what occurred with the terminations, the ability of that to go through even though it was against a collective agreement legal system that was set up between nurses and the employer. So I'm going to give you the short 5-minute version of what's going on with the BC Nurses Union. For anyone who's in private business, you will not necessarily appreciate the fact of how the role that unions play in this province. So anyone who is employed by government has a union that is their in-between negotiator. I personally cannot go to my employer and talk about employment conditions. That right has been signed over to the union. We pay fees to the union to represent us, and that is their job to protect our socioeconomic well-being, to make sure that all agreements and rules of the game, the employment game, are enforced. So when nurses were terminated a year ago, historically, any termination has to go through a grievance process. So this is the legal mechanism that a union uses to bring issues to the employer, and they have to come to some kind of resolution. So there's an investigation, everybody has to follow the rules, and then there's an outcome. If there is a disagreement between the employer, so health authorities versus employee nurse, then it gets moved forward to an arbitrator. So a third party then determines what the decision is for the conflict that is arising. Historically, any nurse that has been terminated within 90 days gets referred to an arbitrator. We are now a year into this process, and our union has not processed our grievances at all. My Freedom of Information request that I obtained from the health authorities from last fall until June 30th, so that's not including the summertime, there were over 2,000 nurses terminated. The process has not proceeded after a year. So what we have uncovered is that our union is taking fees from nurses, and their job is to represent members of that union. And our union is taking the fees, and they are not doing their job. So as a result, in networking with other unions, we have discovered that their thousands of employees that have been terminated are also experiencing the same issue. So the protection of the enforcement of the rules that were determined for this game of the employment conditions have not been enforced. Big picture is the unions in BC have been neutered. Now, this is my personal opinion. There are indicators showing that the strength of the unions are being dissipated. We are investigating to determine if this is intentional or if it's just basically incompetence. We haven't identified that yet. However, what I can tell you for sure is the function of the unions in this province are not protecting the employees. So there are issues with financial implications. Our union, as of 2021, was showing asset worth of $565 million. This is supposed to be a mechanism for protecting employees. What's all this money coming from? And we also have the issue that all unions are considered a nonprofit, which gives them tax-exempt status. This means they do not have to file income tax to prove what their revenues are, what their expenses are, and there are some things that we're exploring in terms of financial stuff. I just want you to be aware that we are seeing that it looks like the BC government is trying to either keep it quiet that the unions are under their control, or they are moving into a position where they are going to dissolve unions. Now, in terms of healthcare, I'll just let you know, there are many nurses that are now working in the healthcare system that work for private agencies. The government pays actually 4 times more for those nurses than for the ones that are hired by health authorities, because they pay their accommodation, their travel, they get paid more. There is a movement of nurses to start to work with private companies versus health authorities, because they just make more money. But I want you to know this. For those nurses and for any international nurses that come in, they are not obligated to be a union member. So now we are diluting the workforce so that all unionized members are now actually working alongside people who are getting actually better working conditions who are not union members. So I'm just going to put that out there. Take a look at my YouTube video, Corrine Maury, because it gives more details on this, and stay tuned.